All right, everyone, we're live. Thank you so much for being here with us today. We are really excited to present one of the first apps in our webinar series on the literacy tools. And we are here today with the folks from Gale. Before I introduce them, I just want to let you all know my name is Gale In Context, and I'm the Director of Digital Learning for our Technology Department. We want to make sure that we provide resources and information for all of our teachers and central office staff with the various tech tools that they can use as part of their daily jobs. So we're really excited to be here today with Gale. And we also want to say a special thank you to the library team, to Felicia and Liz, who are here in the room as well. So if you have any questions, we are well staffed to help answer all your questions from the library, technology, and Gale perspective. Otherwise, I'm going to go ahead and pass it off to Lindsay and Stacy. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Yeah, thank you so much, Rhiannon. As she said, my name is Lindsay Barfield. I am your Gale training consultant, and I'm also joined today with my colleague, Stacy Niblo. She is going to be kind of hanging out in the background to answer any questions that may come in. So, we do have plenty of support here today, but I am going to go ahead and just jump right in to my slides and get things going. I believe these have been shared with you as well. So if you want to open them up and kind of follow along, feel free to do so, but let me get the right setup here. And start my slideshow. All right, you should be able to see my screen now. All right, so at any point today, if you have any questions, feel free to throw those into the chat. I want to start with that right now because we've got Stacy and Nick there to answer questions, and Felicia and Liz and Rhiannon. So ask those questions, please. But our session today is titled Improve Student Research and Media Literacy with Gale In Context Resources. So we are going to be kind of fighting that, what's the word I want to look for, or I'm looking for here? The misinformation, there it is. I was having a little brain fart. The misinformation that so many of our students get when they just go to Google and start their research. We want to show them better resources, better places to go, that they can get safe information, have just a better research experience in general. And that can be done with some of our Gale In Context resources. So just a little bit of housekeeping. Like Rhiannon said, we do have our captions available. So if you'd like those turned on, go ahead and show your captions at the bottom of your Zoom. We are also recording, so just please be sure to keep yourself muted, but you can turn your, if you want to ask a question live, you can go ahead and turn that on. I'm okay with that if you want to ask it directly to me, and then ask your questions also in the chat there. All right, so I know we already did a kind of who's who with what your name is and what department you're from, but I do have a fun kind of would you rather question that I included in here just to be a little bit of an icebreaker. So the question is, would you rather travel back in time to meet your ancestors or to the future to meet your descendants? So take a second and go ahead and answer that in the chat. I'm interested to see what you say. I asked this because I'm kind of torn. I mean, I am interested to see what the future is like, but I think I would pick my ancestors just because I've got my mom's side of the family is Italian and they're from Sicily. So I'd be very interested to meet them and kind of see where they grew up and see that kind of side of my family. I see Liz says ancestors too, probably the same reason, just to see where you're from. But I would be curious to see the future too. All right, while you're answering that, I'm going to move on here just to our agenda. It's a pretty quick one, so you're not going to miss much if you're typing right now, but we're going to start out with just a couple slides here to do an overview of your Gale resources, but we're going to spend most of our time actually exploring the resources, looking at that content, looking at the cool tools that we have built in, the features that are available for you and your students, and then we're going to end with some information from BPS Technology for support, and then also from Gale for support materials, so where you can go after today if you'd like to learn more, get some pre-made lesson plans, activities, all kinds of great stuff. All right, so our objectives for this session. I am a future teacher myself. It's been a couple months since I've been in the classroom, but I got to kind of flex my teacher muscles here and write a couple objectives. So by the end of the session, hopefully you will be able to explore content by 3 different methods. I'm going to show you some different searching methods that you and your students can use. Customize your content using the built-in accessibility features, and how you can share content using the 3 different methods. So these are for you to use, but also for you to be able to translate to your students and show them how to use these tools and features as well. Hopefully be able to do that by the end. Okay, so with that, let's go ahead and jump in. Oh, Nick, I like your answer, yes. Let's jump in and go ahead and look at our Gale resources here. So this is what you have at Boston Public Schools from Gale. You'll notice most of them here have this Gale in Context flag here. This is our line. You can see most of these are either content specific or general reference. So we've got our elementary, middle, and high school resources here. We're going to start today looking at middle school. These are cross-curricular general reference. You're going to find a little something for everybody. It's going to have your ELA, science, social studies, even some just general interest topics for students, and they're geared towards age groups. And then you get into your biography, US history, and so on that are content specific. These are typically better for, I would say, secondary, so middle school to high school, but you can still find a little elementary content in there as well, but they're definitely created with the secondary student in mind. And then I did want to give a small shout out here to your Gale eBooks collection. You have an excellent collection of social emotional learning ebooks that we will actually be doing some sessions for in March. So keep a lookout for that if you're interested in learning more about social emotional learning ebooks. We're going to be taking a closer look at those later on. All right, but with your Gale in Context line, all of these resources are designed in a similar way with similar features in mind, so that way your students have a pretty seamless experience going from one to the other. So talking about those features, the very first one that I want to point out are the content levels that you have. So all of your Gale in Context resources, whenever you pull up an article, even those ebooks, newspapers, whatever it may be, it's going to have a content level assigned. We have them in general categories. You can see level 1 here is going to be generally lower elementary, level 2 is upper, level 3 is middle school, 4 high school, and then 5 is kind of your college level writing. So that way, when students go into the resource and, if they're looking up something like, I was a science teacher, so I taught the rock cycle. If I have students looking for information on the rock cycle, they can go ahead and quickly filter and find, okay, if I'm a middle school student, I probably want to look at level 3 content or maybe even level 2. I shouldn't be reading a level 5 document because that's not going to be really helpful. It's not written for the middle schooler in mind. So everything is leveled so that way students can see what they're reading and if it's at the appropriate reading level for them. We also have some documents that are going to be leveled. So what that means is it's going to have a couple options for reading levels once they click on it. This is typically going to be like on a topic overview page. So, if a student is reading just a quick overview of the rock cycle again, it's going to be available in a higher reading level and a lower reading level. They're going to get the same content, have the same kind of outcome after reading it of what they've learned, but they get options and that freedom to choose what they want to read. All right, so everything is going to be leveled in your Gale in Context resources. We also have accessibility features that are built in. The first of which is the translation feature, which I absolutely love as a former teacher. We can translate any of our articles just with the click of a button into over 40 different languages. It is Google powered, so once a student goes in, if I've got a student that speaks Spanish and they'd rather read it in Spanish, they can translate it, and all of my students in the room can have the same article open, but be reading it in the language that works for them. You also can change your font size. So if students have a vision impairment or just prefer a larger font, they can go ahead and increase that, and it's going to all fit on the same screen still. They're not going to have to zoom in the whole screen and scroll back and forth and keep track of where they're at. It's going to fit in the same window still. You get your display options, which we'll take a closer look at once we get in, but they can change background color, the font style, spacing, all of that can be changed, and it's going to stay throughout their experience in the resource. So as they make their customization options and they click into different articles, it's going to carry throughout. The last one is the ability to listen. Students can have the text read aloud to them, and it's not only going to read it, but it's also going to highlight it. So if you have students who, let's say, have an IEP and they have some reading goals and they need to kind of track reading as it's going through, that highlighting filter feature is built in for them. So it's going to do it as it reads along. All right, and the last I want to talk about are our sharing and saving features. So you have a couple different options here. If you find something that you want to share with your students, the first option you have is to share it to your Google Classroom. So any article, any page, any point that you're in the resource, if you find something you want to share, you can push it straight to your Google Classroom. This button up at the very top of your screen is going to carry throughout and always be available. Same with Get Link. Your Get Link feature is also going to stay. It creates a persistent URL. So that means as we update the resource, which we are always doing, we're putting new content there constantly and keeping it nice and relevant and fresh. You don't have to go in and change the links. You can always get that persistent URL, and your students will come back to the same page that you linked a year ago, even if we've added, over 100 new articles. And last is the option to send to your email, Google, or Microsoft Drive. So if you want to send it to a colleague, you can email it to them, or you can save it to your Google Drive, Microsoft Drive. And once it's in there, it's yours to do with what you'd like. You can edit it, mark it up, do whatever you'd like with it. All right, so with that, we're going to go ahead and dive in. If you don't know how to access your Gale resources, we do have a quick slide here to show you. It's going to be located under Gale in the library resource category in Clever. If you'd like to go ahead and open that up and follow along with me, feel free to. If you'd rather just watch though, that's totally fine, but this is how you're going to access your Gale resources, and we have it linked here as well if you want to open up these slides and see that help sheet. All right, so I will give you just a second to open that, and I'm going to get mine open up too. And I'm going to start out today in Gale In Context Middle School. I chose this one because there is a little something in it for everyone. Even though it is geared towards the middle school audience, there's some stuff in here for upper elementary and for high school, so it's a good place to start. Let me log in. It shouldn't prompt you to log in, or if it does, you're going to want to sign in with Google. All right, so hopefully if you want to follow along, you're at the same point I'm at right now, but I'm going to get started. So once you open up any of your Gale In Context resources, this is the home page that you're going to be brought to. They should all look the same with the exception of Gale In Context Elementary. That one is designed with the elementary student audience in mind, so it's a little bit easier to use for a younger audience. And I'm going to show you that one at the end here, but everything else should be set up this exact same way. So just to kind of acquaint you with the home page here, up in the top right, you have your sign in options. I think it's best practice just to go ahead and sign in as soon as you get in the resource. That way, as you're working, it's pretty seamless. Everything's going to be saved straight to Google or Microsoft, wherever you're wanting to save your documents to. All right, I also have my Google Classroom button right here, which I'll go ahead and click on to show you what the prompts are. Of course, it popped up on my other screen. Let me click and drag this over here. Well, I've got something blocking it. It's not going to let me. Here we go. Sorry about that. So once you want to share something to Google Classroom, it's going to prompt you just like it would in Google Classroom, how you want to share that. You're going to choose the class you want to share it with, library homepage, what you want to do with it. Maybe I want to create a material. And then from here, you can pick your title, topic, grading, all of that like you would in Google Classroom. So again, you can do this from any point. You can do it from the homepage, a specific article, whatever it may be. All right, you also have the option to translate your interface of the resource. So I mentioned before that any of the articles can be translated, but so can the actual navigational features as well. So if I have a Spanish-speaking student, I can come over here, change my language, and now you can see all of these buttons here, navigational features have been translated. All right, it's not going to translate the content just yet. You have to do that once you actually get into the piece, but this is just for the navigation. Now I'm going to put it back into English. All right, under that, you've got your contextual toolbar. Some of these buttons will change as you move throughout, but the ones that are going to stay are, of course, your get link. This is where you can create that persistent URL. If you ever want to link anything from within the resource, this is how you want to do it. You don't want to copy and paste the link up at the top. This can get a little wonky if students click on it. Again, as things kind of change in the resource and we update it, that link may not work. This one always will. So I always recommend using that get link there. All right, and then underneath that, we start getting into our actual topic pages, the content that our students can see, all right? So we've got these topics of interest that are always on our homepage. These change monthly, just kind of based on maybe current events, things that we see are popular with students, maybe something cool that we want to feature, just to get students started if they're coming in and they don't really know what they want to research yet. We're kind of guiding them there to some fun topics. Or they can browse all of our topics underneath. So you can see we've kind of got these based out on different subject areas. I'm a former science teacher, so I did pick a science topic for us today. But before I click in here, we also have the option to browse all of them. So if a student, again, doesn't really know what they want to research yet, and they just want to kind of browse around and see what's available, they can browse all 645 topics, and you're brought to this page. Now, right now, we're viewing all of them. And as you scroll through, you can see that some of them have been updated. We've got new pages here. So we try and keep this content pretty relevant and pretty current to what's going on. but you always have the option to filter down by those subjects again, even from this page. So if I'm looking for a science topic, I'm going to pick science, and here we go. I can see I've still got some new and updated pages here as well. So since we're talking about, misinformation and trying to guide our students to better sources, one of the topics that I always taught that involved a lot of misinformation was global warming and climate change. In sixth grade, we do talk about climate change, and there's always so much information about this. And whenever we did research projects, students use Google, and the papers that I would get were always very, very interesting, some of the things that they came back with. So I picked this for our first kind of starting point here. All right, once you pick a topic page, this is where you're going to be brought. This is the overview. At the top here, it's always going to start with a piece of reference material just to introduce students to the topic and give them some background information. All right, this is a quick little snippet from the article. They have the option to read more here, or they can go down and choose any of these other content pieces. So you can see they get a variety of options. Maybe they'd rather watch a video or listen to someone talk or look at a picture. They kind of get that choice here down below. As you scroll further, it takes each of those content types and gives you the three or four most relevant pieces for each. So within reference material, here are 3 relevant pieces to get started with, and so on with videos and images. All right, now I'm actually going to start up at the top here. Whenever I'm introducing a new topic with students, I like to kind of start with this reference material. And I'm going to go ahead and read more. And the reason I want to come in here is because this is one of our leveled pieces. These topic overviews are always from Gale, and typically they're going to be leveled, so students get the 2 options. I know this one is leveled because right up here at the top, I can see I've got it at a 1080 and an 860. So I can choose which one I want to read if I'm the student. Now, kind of to show you the difference here, we're at the 1080, which is a level 3, so it's meant for middle schoolers. As I scroll through, of course, the content itself is going to be a little bit different, but we also have these sidebars that are built in that are from Gale, and they kind of focus on different things depending on what reading level you're at. So right now I've got just some fast facts that I can read. If I go down further, I've got some connections with types of pollution, and then we always include some words to know, so important vocabulary for this topic. At the very bottom, we have our citation built in. You can pick from 4 different options here. And anytime that you save any content from the resource, this citation is automatically going to come along with it as well if you don't save it individually. Now, going back up to the top, if I'd rather read this at a lower reading level, maybe I got started and I realized, I think I'd rather read something a little bit lower, I can pick the 860. And now the article has changed. I'm still getting the same information, but it's written at a different level, and even my sidebars have changed. So instead of those fast facts, now that I'm at a lower reading level, I'm going to look at some main ideas to kind of help me along in this research process. I've still got my connections to types of pollution, and I've still got my words to know. They're a little different now. We changed the vocab to be specific to this article, but all of that support is still there for your reader, including the citation here at the bottom. All right, so those are our leveled documents. Now, if I want to get back to that global warming and climate change, I've got kind of this breadcrumb trail here that I can follow. Right now I'm in the document, but I'm going to go back to that topic overview. And now I can choose from any of this other content if I want to keep reading. Now I see here I've got thousands of newspaper and magazines to choose from. And as a teacher, I love using newspaper articles, and I was teaching about science topics just because current events are always fun to include in class. So I've got 4,000 to choose from, which is quite a bit for me to filter through as a teacher or my students to filter through, which is why you want to use these filters over here. All right, so you can see they kind of change depending on what content type you're in. But even if I'm in news, it's going to filter through all of the content for me. So for example here, one of my favorites to use, of course, is the content level or Lexile measure. Lexile measure is going to let you get a little more specific with that kind of 200-point range, but content level, and there's wider ranges again based on just reading level and grade level. So if I'm teaching middle schoolers, I'll probably pick a level 3 and maybe a level 2 as well, just to get a little variety. All right, apply that. And now I've got 211 news articles, and I can see my magazines have also gone down to 503. All right, I can also pick a specific publication date if I'm looking for a certain time. I can pick a subject, which I do love these subjects as well. You can see within global warming and climate change, here are some popular subjects that are coming up, and it shows you how many articles are going to be in each. I'll just pick the top one here, climate change. Now I've got 110. I can even pick my document type. So if I'm looking for an article, I'll choose there. And now I've got 43 to choose from. I can keep going on based on the actual publication title, what section of the newspaper it's from, or even do a search with it if I'm looking for a specific term. But these filters are going to be your best friend to kind of narrow down those big content areas or big searches and find something specific. All right, this also is a great time to use your get link. If I were a teacher and I kind of wanted to guide my students to the right articles or the right search, but I still want them to have choice in what they're reading, I can get link, copy this, send it to my students, maybe I put it in my Google Classroom or Canvas or whatever it may be. And when they follow that link, they're going to be brought to the exact search I just did by content type, subject, document type, and all of that. All right, so I'm also going to go ahead and sort by newest instead of relevance. I want to see what's the newest thing happening in the news right now. And we'll go ahead and click on this very first article here, Climate Change Altering America's National Parks. So this was just published on October 7th, 2022. All right, then in this article, I wanted to show you some of our accessibility features that I was talking about. So with that translation, once you click here, students are going to get to choose from any of these options down below. Every year that I taught, I had a student in my class that was a newcomer, which is what we say for students that are brand new to the US. They speak very little to no English, and it was always very challenging to find content that was not only at the right reading level, but also in the correct language for them. And also, students like to pick what they want to read. They don't want to always be handed from their teacher exactly what they're going to read. They kind of want that choice. So this translation really does allow for that. So again, if I had a student who was speaking, let's say French this time instead of Spanish, I can choose that language. It's going to give me a quick preview here, just so that way I can make sure I've got the correct language, complete the translation, and then now I have the entire document written in French for me. All right, notice that my other accessibility features have stayed. I do want to kind of jump over to Listen here just to point out that Listen is available in 22 of those translated languages. It's the 22 most frequently used. And what I like about this is that when students are listening to it in a language, it is someone that is speaking with the right inflection, the right accent to their voice. It's not going to be someone like me speaking in French. It's going to sound a little more natural than it would if somebody else was speaking it. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and go back to my original language now, though, just to show off the others. So we've got our font increase if we want a nice big text. And again, notice it stays within this window here. I don't have to go back and forth if I'm the student. We've got our display options. So you can change your background color, your font style. Open Dyslexic is one that everyone's always excited about. And I can change my line, letter, and word spacing. So if I were the teacher and I shared this with my students, they could all have it open and be looking at it in a totally different way that works for them and that they enjoy. All right, so once I click done, these settings are going to save throughout this session. So as I continue doing my research and kind of jumping around to other articles, it's going to have the green background with this font and the spacing that I chose. Now, once I leave and come back later, maybe the next day, or I close out of the internet and come back later on in class, I will have to reset these for privacy reasons. We don't save it on our databases, but it does save within the session. If you ever want to go back to your default right here, takes you right back to how it originally was. All right, and the last one is Listen. I think I do have it set up so that you can hear it as I turn it on. So hopefully you heard that. But what I like about this, I had students in my class that had IEPs that required readers, and a lot of the readers that are built into the computer that they kind of get through apps can be clunky. It reads, almost every page or every word on the page, and it takes a while to kind of get to the meat of whatever they want to be reading or whatever they're supposed to be listening to. And this starts at the title and it goes right down to the actual body of the paragraph. So it gets to the important stuff quickly. And as you can see, it is highlighting as it's reading. If you ever want to change those settings, they're located right here in this gear. You can turn the highlighting off. You can change what's being highlighted. Again, you can change those colors and the text color. I really like the enhanced text visibility. If I were doing this, as a whole class, I could turn this on. Let me show you how this looks. And it kind of displays it at the bottom nice and big, and it still has those highlighting colors displayed. You can also change your speed, the scrolling. You can use the pop-up button to choose where it's going to pick up and start reading. So you get all of these options. And I will say, if students have one-to-one devices, so if they're using the same Chromebook every single day or the same laptop, these settings do save on their device. If you are using a library device and you don't want it to save, all you have to do is click Restore to default settings, and it'll go right back. All right. So those are accessibility features that are built in. Any questions on anything that I've shown so far? I'm trying to keep an eye on the chat, even though I know we've got people helping out too. Okay. Well, then that is our first kind of searching option that I want to show. We're using those topic pages, the pre-built kind of curated information here, and choosing those by browsing. All right, the next option that you have, and probably the one that most students are drawn towards, is just using the basic search, because it most closely resembles a Google search. They can come in with a topic in mind, type it in, and start their research process. So we'll kind of change gears now and go to social studies. If I were doing a research project on ancient Greece as a student, I can come in and start typing in what I'm looking for. And you'll see that my search assist is going to pop up. Now let me go back a few letters just so we get a little more here. There we go. Okay, so as students are typing, the search assist pops up, and you'll notice that I have bolded words and non-bolded words. And there is a purpose for this. Again, it's to kind of guide them in that research process. The bolded words mean that we have those pre-built, curated topic pages available, where they're going to get the reference page at the top that's going to be leveled, and all the different content nicely kind of picked out for them below. If it's not bolded, it means that we do, of course, have content related to it, but it's not going to be a topic page. It'll be a little bit more just various, I guess, what they're going to get with that. But I'm going to go ahead and pick one of the bolded ones for ancient Greece. And I am on my topic page now. So again, I've got my overview if I wanted to start there, but instead of using that reference piece, I think I'm going to scroll down and pick one of my recommended ones in this content bucket. So I've got this piece on Greek mythology. We'll go in here. And one of the things I haven't talked about yet are highlights and notes. So you might have noticed we've had this highlights and notes button kind of staying with us throughout the whole process. And it's one of these tools that's built in to, again, help your students in the research process. So as they're working, if they see something that's important, maybe because it's for a paper they're writing, or they think it's cool, and they want to remember it for later, or they want to share it with their partner that they're working with, they can take their cursor at any point, click, drag, we'll go to the end of, let's say, the sentence right here. And once they let go, they're going to have the highlights and notes pop up. So they can pick any of these fun colors. Some people, pick a color based on maybe blue or for facts. If they're reading an opinion piece, purple can be for opinion. If they're using it for their, supporting information, they can pick yellow, whatever it may be, or they can just pick their favorite color. We know how kids are. So I'm going to pick green there. And then they can type in any notes that are relevant to it. So if I want to remember something for later, why I highlighted this, I can say this is important because ... and then give my reasoning. Once I click save, that note is going to save with this highlight. I can click on it anytime, come right back to it, and change it when I want. All right, I'm going to make another highlight here just for my example that I'm about to give. I'll say, I like this because, and then again, ... Hopefully your students spell correctly and have a little more insight than what I'm typing here, but you get the point. So the highlights and notes are there for them to kind of collect their thoughts as they're reading and doing their research. They don't have to have a separate document open for it. They don't have to be writing it down by hand. They can do it as they're looking on their computer. All right, so once they have these highlights and notes done, they've read through the whole article, they like it, they have what they want to save, they have two different options. They can either save the entire text with their highlights and notes right here at the top, our saving options again, so they can save it to their drive, email it, download it, print it from the library, whatever they may want to do. I'm going to save to my Google Drive. You'll see that it's going to appear there shortly. And once I go to my Google Drive, you'll see that I have a folder called Gale In Context Middle School. Now, I did not create that folder. That folder was just created for me when I saved a piece of content from that database. So as soon as a student saves something from one of the Gale In Context resources, it's going to create a folder for them. And then I can see here my Greek mythology document. And it's going to be the full text with my notes. So all of the information up here at the top at the publisher, author, content level, all of that stuff that was on the page. As I scroll through, here are my highlights. And then as I go to the very bottom, let me scroll all the way down here. I've got my notes attached to it. So I still have that highlighted text with my notes. So the entire document's available even with the source citation. All right, your other option, maybe I don't want the full text. It's pretty long. I highlighted the important stuff that I need. I can go right up here to the top of my highlights and notes and then view all. And I've got this kind of digital notes page that's available for me. You'll see it tells me what document I was working in, the text I highlighted, what I wrote about it. I've got a running bibliography at the bottom here. So, let's say I was in 4 different documents. I'm going to have all of that information there. And I've even got my save warning telling me, hey, make sure you download this before you leave, because if you don't, it's going to be lost at the end of your session. So just like those accessibility features, the customizations, how you're viewing your document, that changes after you leave. So do your highlights and notes. They're not going to save for privacy reasons. So I want to make sure at the top here, I send it to my Google Drive, OneDrive email, download it or print it before I leave. So that way it's not lost. So once I save it to my drive, we'll give it a second here and there it is. It popped up. Now it's my highlighted articles from this date. And I open it. And again, my full text that I highlighted and the notes that I have with it and my running bibliography at the bottom. So a great tool for student research if they're just looking to save this, this information that they were highlighting. Now, I do also want to point out that you've got a hyperlink here. So maybe I took my highlights and notes, but I need a little bit more. I can go back to this document. My highlights and notes won't be on it anymore, but I can return to it and continue my work and in the same place that I was working before. All right, so let me go back to my page here. And the last thing I want to show you in Gale In Context Middle School is one of our last searching options, and one that I think a lot of students really enjoy, and it's in our advanced search. Now, once I go in here, the advanced search itself is a great searching option. It can be, as it is in the title, a little advanced for some of our students. But if you go over to Topic Finder here, this is what I find a lot of kids like. So this gives a sort of visual representation of the research that they're doing. They can type in, again, if I'm looking for information on Greek mythology or ancient Greece, I can type that in here and find new subjects and topics to research within that to learn a little bit more about that topic. So let's go ahead and type in, we'll do mythology, since I was on that topic already. So once you do your topic finder search, you're going to get 2 options of how you want to visualize it. You can do tiles, which is my preferred way of using it, or you can use a wheel, which is a little more organized, I think, but I prefer the tiles. So I'm going to go back over here. And the way the tiles work is the bigger the tile, the more content is inside. And you can even see in some of them within Greeks, here are some other topics that I can learn, ancient Greeks, Zeus, Greek goddesses. As I go over to the green, they get a little bit smaller because there's a little bit less content inside. But I think mythological figures sounds interesting, so I can click there. Now, the overarching topic of mythological figures has 42 articles that I can read and scroll through, or I can continue to filter by picking another topic inside. So mythical plants sounds pretty cool. I can click there. And now I've got 4 articles to choose from. So this is just a really fun way for students to kind of learn about new things, about maybe a topic they thought they knew. I thought I knew Greek mythology, but I don't know about trees and mythology. This could be kind of fun to research and include in my paper and kind of work from here. All right, so Topic Finder, a super fun way for students to do their research and kind of interesting to use those visualizations. Okay, any questions on In Context Middle School before I jump over to show you some fun content in our other ones? All right, so I do want to also show off Gale in Context Opposing Viewpoints, just because it has some cool content features inside that are not in your middle school, high school, and elementary. And also because we are featuring a topic on the homepage that is very relevant for this session. You can see here in our carousel of interests, we have disinformation and misinformation, which is of course what we're talking about today, how we can get our students to better information and better places to do research. So I'm going to explore this topic here. In Opposing Viewpoints, this resource is built in a way to give students, those hot topics, controversial issues, things going on in the world. It's meant to give it to them in a way that they get to decide for themselves where they stand on it. We give them, both sides of an argument without telling them, hey, this is a pro, this is a con. They have to use those critical thinking skills themselves to figure out where they stand. And that is through the viewpoints content piece. So right here, we've got featured viewpoints and all viewpoints. I think the featured viewpoints is a really great place to start, just so that way, you kind of click in, get started, and you get an article commentary every time. So on the viewpoints, the article commentary is meant to kind of give you some background information on the person that's writing the article, just to give you some information like, where, what background are they from, where do they work, why might they be writing this article, just to give you that information to understand their background. And then underneath, you get some questions to consider as you're reading. So kind of a built-in assignment. That's my first thought as a teacher, a built-in assignment with the article. So some questions that you should ask yourself as you're reading before, and then you can even answer them during with the highlights feature. So if I have a question here, what evidence do the authors provide? I can highlight this in yellow. And as I'm reading, maybe this is my answer right here. Highlight that in yellow, and I'm done. So it's a quick, easy assignment built in to these viewpoints, which is something I absolutely love. But again, all the articles are going to be different from different writers, different perspectives, meant for students to kind of use these critical thinking questions and ask themselves, where do I stand on it? What do I think about this? All right, I'm going to use my breadcrumb trail here to go back and point out the other cool content piece that we have, which are infographics. Now, I mentioned that I taught science previously. I also taught math, and I think the infographics are a cool combination of those two content areas here. I'm going to go into this one right here, 2021. US views on the use of fake news algorithms by social media companies. So this is a data display that is interactive for your students. So you can see here, I'm looking at the US views on the use of fake news algorithms by social media companies. I've got that information by age group, by education attained, and by political party. So I've got a good variety of content, but I've also got the option to change how I want this displayed. So this bar graph that I have here, maybe I only want to compare, this green part right here, the people who thought it was a good idea. I can click on bad idea to get rid of that. I can click on not sure. And now I've moved the green over to the left and I can compare just that. All right, maybe I want to look at just people who had an opinion, they thought it was a bad idea or a good idea. I want to get rid of not sure. I can only display that information. So you can interact with these different graphs and display them in the ways that make sense for whatever your research purposes or what you're looking for. I've also got a little pie chart down here that I can do the same thing with, kind of click around, play with it, and change my data display. And of course, even with this resource, you've got your sharing options here. You can use your highlights and notes, you can share it, whatever it may be that you want to do, and you get your source citation. All right, the other resource I wanted to pop into was Gale In Context biography, because it has one of my favorite searching features, which is the person search. Now, one of my students' favorite thing to do in class when we had extra time was to search their name, my name, their mom's name, anybody's name that they knew. They loved going to Google and searching names and seeing who would come up. And that is a very fun game to play, but sometimes they would get some very interesting results. So this is a, I think, safer place to do that and learn about new people. Once you click in the person search, you get two options. You can either search by specific name or by using search limiters. So if I were a student and I wanted to find somebody else like Miss Barfield, which my last name is not a very common one, I can type that in. And here are all the people, all the biographical information that we have on for people with Barfield in their name. The way this data is displayed is, of course, by the name, the occupation of that person, the birth date, if we've got the death date, all of that. And I can already tell you my students would have had a field day with the fact that there was a murderer with the last name Barfield. But I find it cool that my dad has the name Robert Barfield and he was a scientist. That's cool too. It's not my dad, but someone with the same name. All right, you also can use, let me go back here, these search limiters. So if a student is looking for someone like themselves or someone that has similar interests to them or same occupation they're looking for, they can come in and put those limiters in. So let's say I have a student who's looking for someone who's African American, who let's say is female. We'll do occupation. We'll say novelist. And maybe it's from Massachusetts. Oh, I know what I did. I put too many S's in Massachusetts. There we go. I still have African American, female novelist. There we go. Okay. This is right. I failed my own spelling test. So based on those limiters now, here are all the people that fit what I was looking for. So I can find somebody brand new that I've never heard of before, do some research on them. And yeah, just learn about somebody new, which I always think is so fun. Now, of course, with Gale In Context biography, even if you don't use the person search, we have just tons and tons and tons of people. Just like you can browse topics within Gale In Context Middle School or opposing viewpoints, you can also browse people. So if I wanted to find somebody, you know, if I'm working on a project for American presidents, I can choose that topic, and here are all the pages that we have on American presidents. And these are built out just like those topic overview pages. So if I were to choose Barack Obama here, I've got my overview on him, some quick facts about himself, and then all the content that we have related. All right, I am about to jump into Gale In Context Middle School. Is there any other resource that you would like to see though, specifically before I go into that one? Because it is very different from what we just looked at. Okay, well then last one, Gale In Context Elementary. You're gonna notice as soon as I open it, it looks a little different, right? Yeah, so this is designed again with the elementary age group in mind, but with the same tools and features and research experience in mind. So you'll see we still have topic pages available for elementary students, but we've also got the content types kind of broken down into they can look at books, newspaper articles specifically, pictures, videos, whatever it may be that they want to look for. We also have a great feature built in here with the sound. I'm going to turn it on really quickly. It's automatically off, but once you turn it on, hopefully you can hear that. As students are moving their cursor around the page, it's going to read to them. So again, if they don't have those reading skills yet, or they just need a reader, they can do that even for the navigational features of getting through the resource. Of course, it's going to read to them the entire article. They've got the listen feature there, but they've got it for navigation as well. All right, let me pull my page off here. There we go. Okay, so just to show you what a topic page is going to look like for the elementary resource, if I were working in science once again, after I choose that topic of science, instead of giving me the list of topics, it's going to allow me to kind of filter down further based on what topic I'm looking for within science. So maybe I'm looking at weather and climate again. All right, within weather and climate, it's going to tell me what that topic is about. And then I can choose, do I want to look at climate specifically, climate change, clouds, floods, and so on. So maybe I'll just pick climate this time. All right, now I've made it to my topic overview page. It's set up kind of similarly to how we had the other ones in Gale In Context Middle School, where you're going to have your overview at the top, a piece of reference material that's going to be leveled. But now I've got some quick facts built in. So if I don't ever get into any of the content, I can at least read these quick facts and learn a little bit about climate quickly. Or I can choose these book articles, magazines, biographies, and so on. So it goes all the way down here. And then I've even got some related topics at the bottom. So after I learn about climate, maybe I'd also like to learn about biomes or the weather or global warming. And then if I click here into our keep reading, you'll see the setup is pretty similar, but now I have all my accessibility features over here. I still have the option to save it. I can send it to my Google Drive, OneDrive, email, download it, print it, get a link. And I even have the ability to still do my highlights and notes. All right, so all of those features will still be there for your elementary students. And then our level document, even the leveling looks a little bit different, a little bit nicer for the elementary kids. Okay, just to show you those other browsing options you have, since you do have some ebooks here, I did want to show you how the ebooks look. So our ebooks are kind of broken down into different topics. You've got education, general reference, literature, medicine, and so on. Those social emotional ebooks that I mentioned that we're going to have a specific session for, those are going to be in here as well, the ones that are geared towards elementary students. So if I pick this one right here on bundles or a bundle of nerves, a story of courage, my student can read about this student that had a bundle of nerves and how they got over that using their courage. Now, this is our ebook view. All right, students can, even though they don't have the same accessibility features, they still have the ability to kind of zoom in. They can make it full screen to make it nice and easy to read, click and drag to kind of move around, and they still have the option to listen and have the book read aloud to them. All right, so these ebooks that you have in here are absolutely excellent. You also have some navigation. So if students want to kind of jump to a specific part of the book, maybe they want to go to the part about being brave, they can do they can do that through the table of contents. They also can find a specific word or phrase. So if they're looking for the parts of the book that talk about courage, here's every time the word courage is mentioned, they can jump to that specific page. All right, we've also got a built-in dictionary. So if there's a certain word on the page the student doesn't know, they don't have to run up to their teacher and ask. They can just go ahead and type it in here and have it defined. And then we've also got this bookshelf. So that way they can be recommended other books that are similar to this if they want to go ahead and keep reading, or open the entire bookshelf and choose from all the social emotional learning books that they have. So love the ebooks here that are built in for the students. All right, I know we're running just a few minutes short, or we've only got a couple minutes left. So I did just want to pop in quickly to the news because I do love the news page as well because of these fun facts that we have. The fun facts are going to show you just like monthly things that are going on. So for January, it's National Oatmeal Month. How many students would know that it's National Oatmeal Month? Probably not many. There's a Festival of Sleep Day on January 3rd. So hopefully you guys slept in. So we've just got this really fun news page built out that teaches students what's happening that month, but then also gives them more information about it. So we've got National Braille Literacy Month, and students can read more about Helen Keller and learn about somebody that read Braille. All right, I want to leave Rhiannon a few minutes to wrap up, but I am going to go back to our slides here just so I can show you a little bit of information, like I said, about support. Let me find it really quickly. Here we go. And also mention, I almost forgot here, our upcoming session that we have on Thursday on Gale In Context for educators. So today we talked about all the resources that we have for students, but we have one specifically for teachers as well. Let me kind of click through here and open everything. Gale In Context for educators takes all of those Gale In Context resources that we just looked at and puts them in one spot that you as a teacher can cross-search every single one of them, find content quickly and easily using those filters, and find lesson plans that are pre-made, built all the way out. They've got grading rubrics. We just added assessments to them, so quick little formative assessments that you can give, and it's just absolutely amazing for teachers. I wish I had it when I was teaching. You can even collaborate with other teachers that you're working with on it. So please, on Thursday, join us for that one to learn a little bit more at 4 o'clock. But for support, we have an excellent page built out, support.gale.com/BPS, specifically for Boston Public Schools. You can go here and find tip sheets, tutorials, more lessons, and recorded webinars if you want to find even more information and watch something to learn a little more in depth about maybe any of those in context resources that you saw. And we've got marketing materials there too. So if you want to put a poster up or a bookmark, you can do that. Oh, I see Rhiannon just shared the link to the slides because we are about to share some links here. Rhiannon, if you want to hop in and talk about this slide.
Yes, thank you so much, Lindsay. That was really excellent. I learned so much about Gale. I just
Oh,
had like a
great.
rough idea for what it was, and now I'm just like filled with so many possibilities. So thank you.
Great, I'm
Um,
glad to hear it.
yes. So we also wanted to let you know that we have many more offerings that we try to plan for. If you're curious, you can go to this slide. I might just share this link to the deck in the chat. And we have various PD that you can watch in your own time, especially if you came in late today. And then you can also request a PD at your school. If you go to the next slide,
Mhm.
we have different links for just our resources for technology, so you could check that out as well. And then this is also part of an ongoing series. And so on the next slide, you'll see that you could sign up for some more. As Lindsay mentioned, there's going to be one more Gale webinar this Thursday if you want to sign up for that. In addition, we have some other literacy apps that we'd like for you to check out. If you're not able to attend, and that's okay, we're going to post all the links to the slides and the recordings on our website. And our website was linked on the previous page. Once more, thank you so much for your time today. Thank you to our facilitators and to our attendees. We have a feedback form that I'm going to ask Nick to go ahead and post to the chat. Please fill it out. Tell us what you thought of today's webinar. And also, please spend some time just taking a look at this resource and know that you can reach out to us if you have any questions. And thank you, Felicia and the library team, for bringing this to us. You definitely should be using it. All righty. Thank you, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Rihanna,
everyone.
and thank you, Lindsay. Have a good night, guys.
Let's see.